Okay, so imagine this. You're about to write a history essay, and instead of freaking out, you're actually kind of excited.
Yeah, that's what we want,
That's the goal.
to unlock that.
Yeah. And we're diving deep into how to make that happen. We're breaking down a guide for writing amazing junior cert history essays, you know, zeroing in on what you absolutely have to know to like basically ace those exams.
And I think what's so cool about this is it's useful even beyond just like, getting through school. It's about, you know, building those critical thinking skills,
Mm.
analyzing information, building arguments, really understanding how to look at something from different angles.
Yeah.
And that's something you can use no matter what you end up doing.
Yeah, totally. Consider us your study buddies walking you through all of this. And first up, we've got to talk about this. It's like the magic acronym in the guide, SRS.
Right. Significant relevant statements.
Yeah.
And, think of each one as a mini argument, a little piece of evidence that really clearly supports your main point. And here's a little insider tip. Take the total marks for your essay, divide that number by 2, and that's about how many SRS statements you should aim for.
That's actually so helpful because I remember when I would write essays, I would just try to cram in every single thing I could remember, like whether it was really relevant or not.
Oh yeah, we've all been there.
Oh, yeah.
But with these, it's all about quality over quantity.
That makes sense.
So like saying St. Patrick died in Kaidan in 461 AD, that's a solid SRS.
Okay.
But if you just said St. Patrick's favorite color was blue, well, that's interesting, but it's not going to get you any points.
Right. It's like extra information, but it's not actually useful.
Exactly.
Okay. So speaking of building arguments, this guide spends a lot of time on sources.
Of course. They're like the foundation of any good history essay.
Exactly. And it really breaks it down. Like, what's the difference between a primary source and a secondary source?
Yeah, so primary sources are like firsthand accounts, original documents, things like that.
Okay, got it.
And then secondary sources are interpretations of those primary sources.
So it's like someone else's take on it.
Exactly.
Okay. So that's where things I think get really interesting because you have to be like a detective
Absolutely.
and consider who created this and what was their perspective.
Yeah, a diary entry from, let's say, a peasant
Mm-hmm.
is going to have a totally different perspective than a king's, official decree about something, even if they're talking about the same event.
Okay, so we've got our SRS strategy. We're thinking about sources. Now let's talk about some of these, I don't know what to call them. They're kind of like historian tools or like cool terms.
I like that.
Yeah.
Historian's toolkit.
Yes. So the guide goes over a bunch of these. Like, what about stratigraphy?
Oh, that's a good one.
It sounds really complicated.
It sounds scarier than it is.
Right. So stratigraphy is basically like if you were to dig in your backyard and like way down you find a bunch of old toys. That's stratigraphy.
Yeah. The deeper you go, the older this stuff is. Archaeologists use it all the time. It's like an archaeological layer cake.
I like that. That's a good visual.
Yeah.
And then there's another one, dendrochronology.
That's a mouthful.
I know. And it basically means you can tell how old a tree is by its rings.
Yeah. But it's way more than just counting the rings.
Yeah.
Scientists can use those rings to figure out what the climate was like way back when.
Whoa. So it's like trees are nature's time machines or something.
Exactly.
That's so cool. And then there's carbon-14 dating, which I always thought was like the most accurate way to date things, but it turns out it has like an expiration date.
Yeah, that's right. It was really only good for about the last 40,000 years.
Oh, wow.
Anything older than that, and it's a lot harder to figure out exactly how old it is.
Mm-hmm.
Which I think brings up a really interesting question. How much do the limits of like our dating methods, how much does that affect what we know or think we know about the really, really distant past?
Whoa, that's a good point.
Makes you think.
Yeah. So we've covered so much.
I know, right?
From building those SRS arguments and really understanding our sources, and then getting into some of those cool history terms like stratigraphy.
You're an historian's toolkit.
Yeah. So now go out there and write some amazing essays.